This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Andre Kempe, founder at Admiral Media, Admiral Studio. Andre, welcome back to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thanks so much, Art. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back on. All right. Something tells me that among people who are listening to this podcast, there are some who do remember how a dial-up mode should sound like when you're connecting to the internet. These people witnessed the fight for the dominance between the Internet Explorer browser from Microsoft and the one from the Mozilla Foundation. So they did remember the late 90s, early 2000s. But I'm not sure that these people are familiar with the terminology like Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 3.0, let alone the Web3 Ads. But today we have Andre to introduce us to the Web3 advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Andre, you was a guest on the show back in 2020, mid-2020. For people who did not listen to that episode, please tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm one of those guys who remembers the dial-up sound. It was a very exciting time to experience the internet back then, when you really had to think of which address you have to type in to find something, and because there wasn't a Google or something like that, right? So things have changed dramatically. Anyways, what I'm doing, so I'm running, you mentioned it, Admiral Media, performance marketing agency. We are like 20 people. We are running international campaigns on any paid social channel for a variety of clients, mostly subscription-based apps. But also I've co-founded Admiral Studio lately, and that's the topic today, basically, where we developed an advertising platform, basically with the knowledge of what we've learned from our past years in Web2 advertising, and try to apply this to Web3 in the crypto world, basically. And this is what Admiral Studio does. And we have developed a platform called Wallet Ads. And this is basically something we wanted to discuss today and compare a little bit with the app advertising or web advertising that most of you guys know, certainly.
All right. So yeah, speaking of Web3, before introducing the Web3 ad notion, let's cover what's been happening up till now. And obviously, in-app advertising is the most prominent part of the mobile advertising landscape. So what is the standard in-app ad today? How widespread is it among different app categories? How efficient they can be? Can you give us some few data points just to kind of draw the picture?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most of us, if you look at yourself, Art, how you use your mobile phone versus how you use your computer, right? I think at least in the professional world, most of us use desktop for emailing, for Excel, for Google Sheets, Word documents, whatever, contracts, and so on. But on the mobile phone, our behavior very often changes. We do the same things. We also comment on emails and whatnot. But we start using games, we start using social media, we surf on Twitter to check in what Elon does lately, and so on, right? Yeah. So the behavior is a little bit different, certainly. And the users show that also when you analyze your web traffic, as an example, right? 70-80% of traffic on regular websites are coming from a mobile device nowadays. And the apps are, on top of that, adding a huge chunk of volume of traffic, since we are switching between the apps so quickly. I open my Instagram, I go over to Twitter, I open my TikTok, and this happens within milliseconds, basically, right? So has advertising changed, and is different between desktop and mobile already. what I can actually do on a mobile device versus what I can do on a desktop computer is already a little bit different, because typing is easier on a keyboard versus on a mobile phone when it comes to, I don't know, credit card insertion and these kind of things. So purchase behavior is different on those devices. And also how ads look like is so much different. But these are just the very simple things to compare mobile and desktop. When it comes to in-app advertising, there's no so much difference between mobile web and in-app ads, right? So this is pretty much quite similar. The only differences I would see is that in-app ads, when I'm playing a game, for example, can be more contextual to the game that I'm actually playing, right? So for example, if I'm playing something where I have to fight for the golden sword, then the ad that is being displayed could use that information in a somewhat better way and already sell me the silver sword for another game or something like that, right? So they can get a little bit more clever on in-app ads sometimes, I believe, with the incentivized offer walls and these kind of things.
So yeah, in-app advertising, as far as the how popular they are in different categories, I think if you just mentioned the games, but I think that would be applicable to utilities, social apps, and entertainment in general. We kind of taken them for granted. I mean, when I say we, kind of the whole society, we're kind of came to terms with the fact that if you want to get something for free or close to be free, like paying a buck or two, you are okay with seeing ads inside your app. Unfortunately, like I know many occasions when you're talking about kids, they may watch those videos in the game just for the sake of getting some rewards. So in those cases, advertising does not really work. I mean, people are watching video ads and just for the sake of getting their reward, but not actually with an intent that using anything that it was advertised in those videos. But at least just to give you a sense that in-app ads, it's kind of a part and partial of the experience of using mobile apps today, like it was the case with the advertising on a desktop, which we mentioned previously. And this is the landscape of advertising as it stands right now when we are in the current era of digital advertising. So having said that, what is in your opinion, are drawbacks for in-app ads? We live in a very dynamic world, and the app industry mirrors its rapid changes. Your app growth depends on new knowledge and skills like never before. This December, one and only Berlin will open its doors for app marketers from all corners of the world. Go to apppromotionsummit.com/Berlin to register and be part of it.
Well, you mentioned the kids watching videos just to get the reward, and this probably doesn't work. I would counter this, to be honest. When I want to bring the comparison with McDonald's and their Happy Meal. If I remember my time when I saw on TV, and the only incentive watching an ad on TV was, when is it over? I want to continue watching my movie.
Right.
But still, it's an incentive in some way. I think the advertising that McDonald's would show to me still worked, because I still remembered when I was inside the McDonald's store that, oh, there's this Happy Meal thing. I want to have this toy.
That's a good point.
I think advertising works, especially with kids, and that's why they are so protected from advertising. So it's rather the exact opposite from my perspective. It's just most advertisers in that environment are not clever enough on what to advertise and how to advertise to kids in that specific context, let's say. I believe one part here is that creativity got worse and worse over the years when performance marketing became such a huge factor in the advertising industry per se, right? So performance advertising only looks at the click-through rates and the conversion rates and whatnot, but it forgets what impact every eyeball actually has, or how we can impact every eyeball with our ads. We count the impressions, but we don't think of the sheer volume of impressions that we are generating with our performance ads, because we only look at the return on ad spend nowadays. And this is why we think, okay, this ad doesn't work, but it does. We just forgot how to really use it effectively, let's say. So this is about that side of things. Also, the attribution over the years has improved so much in performance advertising. This has exactly this effect. We see which impression, which click brought us which result. And that's why we very often concluded, okay, this was not tracked. There was no result tracked, so the ad wasn't successful, but maybe the user was actually converting in some other way. We just didn't see that, right? This all plays hand in hand together. And coming back to the Web3 world, here we still don't have such a solution, right? So we are kind of falling back into exactly that scenario, that we need to be clever about our advertising and need to think of ways how we promote our products in Web3. If it's a fashion brand that is just releasing a new clothing thing for the metaverse or something, they need to be smart on how to promote, through which channels they want to promote, how they want to measure the success, really.
Right, that's a very good point, Andreas. So even when the advertising does not produce immediate effect, just like I said, that kids are just watching because they want to get their reward, but not for the sake of actually using it and stop being advertised. But it stucks with them later. Just like when you're driving on the highway, pass by some ads, you may not realize that when you're watching the same advertising on that big board day in, day out, it sticks with you. It influences your decision to buy that product later. You may not realize that. Yes. So advertisers should be especially cautious about that effect for kids as opposed to adults. So at least with us, we're more or less responsible for our decisions, which to the extent I would argue, but still that effect can be more or less controlled by us, which is not the case with kids. And that's especially have to be really mindful when you're launching an advertising campaign for games, and you know that kids will be looking for that in those ads. So that's important point to make. But we just mentioned Web3 internet. When we say Web3 internet, what do we mean by that? Just like I mentioned in the intro, like this division between 1, 2, and 3, you may hear this notion being mentioned by somebody on the some tech pundit, but I'm not sure that in masses people are that familiar with that term, like with the browser notion on the email client.
I think there is one description out there that explains the difference between 1, 2, and 3 quite well. Web 1 was basically the big media companies were showing us something, eat or die, right? Right. Web 2 enabled us to basically start creating stuff, become part of the internet, start blogging, start becoming an influencer, these kind of things, right? So it's the power went away from media companies into the hands of users more and more, let's say. Now Web3 basically is an enhancement of that. It basically enables creators to start monetizing and control licenses of what they have produced, right? So because the blockchain technology enables you as a creator to control whenever some content is being displayed, you would recognize that and you would be able to charge a fee for that, and this would really come to you without any intermediary, right? So you wouldn't need a Universal Studios or whatever big corporation to control that for you and collect license fees. This does the blockchain for you. And this is basically the next level in the development of internet.
So coming from on the first stage, the whole content was generated by media. The second stage, the content generation partially, I would argue in a big part, moved towards user-generated content in the stage 3, when these users can actually monetize on the content they generate. And I would see that in the light of somebody mentioned recently that one of the problems with the original internet concept was that there was no the built-in system in the browser for microtransactions. You could not start selling anything back in the day when the internet just got started and generating revenue. You had to rely on the advertising from the day one. So we may argue that this is the problem we're getting with the the influence of Facebook on the society, the influence of big companies that are relying on advertising to generate revenue, because the whole thing started with a situation when advertising is the only game in the town to make money. So Web 3.0 trying to change this whole situation and empower content generator with the system, with the financial means to make money. Okay.
Maybe to jump into that one more time. So I think that this is only half true, because you already in Web 2 are able to make money. I think payment systems have improved quite a bit over the past 10 years. Implementing a PayPal button on your own blog or something, that's not a big deal, right? There's ready-made solutions for that. Collecting whatever currency from those platforms or through those platforms. I think it's the Web3 part is more beneficial for controlling ownership, for licenses. The payment part is just one additional component to that.
So if you want to retain the rights on your content in a situation when every piece of content is digital. Got it. Okay, so now what is Web3 ad? What is advantages over in-app advertising at this point? Can you give me some examples for that?
Yeah, well, there is no such thing like a Web3 ad per se. It's rather how do you promote products that are living in the Web3 world. So a product could be an NFT. This is certainly the most popular thing at the moment, but there's a couple of other things out there. But to stick to the NFT example, because it's the best use case, I think, for now, that everyone understands because it was in the media so much and everyone has read about an NFT already. So I don't need to explain other things attached to maybe other ideas here. But let's say you're purchasing a funny image of an ape. Everyone makes jokes about nowadays. They are still being sold for I don't know how many millions out there, because they are collectible. They became collectibles, and there are a couple of other, not only the apes, right? So this is a Web3 product, because here you have an image where the original license is being maintained within the blockchain. You can check the smart contract. Within the smart contract, everything's written down, like who owns what and what money goes to whom in a secondary market, for example. So, for example, you, Art, are buying one of the apes, and then you want to sell it to me on the secondary market. And you paid 500,000, I am paying $1 million. Now, in theory, you would make a 500K profit. But maybe in the smart contract, it's written that the original creator of the ape still gets 250 grand for this reselling. And this is automatically happening without them being involved, without them giving an additional approval, signing something, whatever. They would automatically earn exactly that amount, right? So your profit is a little less, but the license goes into my hands, and everyone has earned something here. So to do that, more and more new platforms are coming up, trading platforms. Imagine like eBay. Now in the Web3 world, there are a couple of them. One of the most popular is certainly OpenSea, where you can purchase those NFTs. And they are integrated with various chains. There's different, let's say, protocols on blockchains. And here you can basically publish your NFT collection that you have created, or as a customer buy NFTs. So it's a marketplace similar to eBay. Just it's using in its backbone blockchain inventory, let's say, the NFTs. So now, how would you make your NFT collection popular, Art? Which ways would you go? You would probably try to find influencers to talk about it. Fair enough, try that. You would probably try to do Facebook ads. You can try that.
Yeah, one of the options.
Right, and Twitter and Reddit and whatnot. So you can do all those things that we all know from the Web2 world. We are still all using such platforms. But how could you, in theory, advertise in the Web3 platforms? And this is exactly what we've built with Wallet Ads. We are basically enabling advertisers like NFT collection holders to promote, or a crypto app, trading app, for example, to promote their product, their app, in users' wallets. So you are releasing an NFT collection. You must own a wallet that contains your money, information about you, and
payment
so on.
for those NFTs.
Exactly. So we are now sending you advertising into your wallet. And imagine like your traditional wallet that you've had in your pocket.
Hold on. I'm going to check my wallet. No ads there yet. Okay, please continue.
Exactly. Imagine that, right? So in the offline world, you have a wallet. We take it out of your pocket. We stick in our business card. We put it back in your pocket. And someday you will look into your wallet and wonder what this business card is. And we are doing this in the Web3 world, basically. We are able to promote or send advertising into people's wallets and promote products that can be purchased on the blockchain. In most cases, it's NFT collections. In some other cases, it's like Web3 email programs, or it's please download this crypto trading app, these kind of things.
Hold on your wallets, people. It's coming. You know what is really fascinating for me when it comes to NFT is that you may hear from people that this attitude that NFT, it's kind of ephemeral, it's not real, it's not tangible, it's basically just selling air. But back in the early the beginning of the 20th century, when the paper money was introduced by as the means of paying for something, people at that point were relying on gold, and they could not grasp the concept of paper money right away. It was a bit of a backlash. Okay, I could completely understand how can I pay with the gold. It's something that I really understand. So what's up with this paper money? So today it would be really laughable if somebody would start, disputing the concept of paper money. So we're kind of moving through the next transition with the NFT right now, because to be honest, from a biological perspective or not consciousness, they're all the same: gold, money, NFT, just the social contract between us. We agree that this amount of gold particles I can give you for this product, or this amount of piece of paper for this product, or NFT is the electronic payment. But so I think it will come through this transition phase and will be accepted widely, just like regular paper money at this point.
I couldn't describe it in a better way. It's exactly what's happening. Like, value gets created from the consensus of many, let's say, right? So many people just agree, okay, this has some value for me. I would be willing to pay for that X amount, right? And this consensus is creating value. So it's not about the material that I'm exchanging.
Exactly
what you just described, right? So perfect. Yeah.
So The classical crystal ball question. In your opinion, what do you think is coming from Web3 ads?
What do you mean coming from Web3 ads?
I don't know what is coming for. I mean, what should we expect? How do you see the development of the advertising?
Well, that's very early stage. Also with wallet ads, we are just tapping into a very interesting market. We still try to understand user behavior here. We are analyzing all the data that we are collecting and so on. So it's hard to foresee what's happening as a next step here, but I could believe as one of the next steps that if we are continuing the development as successful as we did in the last month with this, we would go away from pure sending ads into people's wallets, into wallets that we have collected, basically, to becoming a kind of a MailChimp of Web3, where you are, for example, you already own a lot of wallet addresses from your audience, for example.
Right.
And we become like a MailChimp. Instead of email sending, we would send them ads into wallets. This is step one. Step two could be an audience network. So all the Web3 platforms out there could potentially implement a solution like ours and use us like AdSense to monetize, right? And then we are stepping out of this send something into people's wallets, but it's still tokenized ad inventory, so to say.
Got you. Now, Andrea, as a guy who have been in mobile tech for a while, is there something about the industry you would really like to change?
I think this is not related to Web 2, Web 3, Web 1 or something. It's rather, I would say, how people think of advertising and how it should be managed in general. I think this is something what I would like to change. First of all, we need to go back to be just performance marketing guys. We need to realize we do advertising and use the chances that we get, right? We only have that few seconds of a user to make this user interested in the product that we advertise. And we have totally forgotten about this since performance marketing skyrocketed like crazy in the last years. This is coming back to the first part of our conversation about the kids' eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first thing, and then also when it comes to how it's being managed, I think something needs to change in terms of how you perceive a product development and advertising. You don't need to have everything in-house. You don't need to develop everything yourself and reinvent the wheel for everything. There is so many awesome solutions out there that you can just integrate, implement, and pay a little fee for that instead of defocusing your product development team, challenging your marketing team with new things that others have mastered already, right? I think this perception needs to change a little bit from people, but because I believe it comes only from one train of thoughts. The more people I manage, the more projects I manage, the more power I have in the company, or the more I can show how great I manage these things and how many great ideas I have developed and products I've developed. But it's actually not needed, right? The ultimate goal is generate revenue, generate value, and not how many people you hire and how many sub products you have developed internally.
Yeah, I think I absolutely see what you're saying. We still cannot accept the notion that pretty much anything, if you look around any product, service, anything you can see is a product of collaborative development. We are not living in a world where things are done by a single individual. Even the brightest minds you can think of are standing on the shoulders of giants, as that famous phrasing says. So do not it's completely okay for you to be smart compilers, the smart people on the top of the chain of different tools developed by other people. And it's still kudos and credit goes to you as a guy who can pull it off. But do not start from reinventing the wheel, as you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. So before I let you go, Andre, how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
I think the easiest way is just my LinkedIn profile. It's probably the only platform I use multiple times every day. Okay, a little bit of Twitter as well, but
yeah,
let's say for professional contacting, use LinkedIn, please.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is still the same platform to use.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Art. Have a good one.
And that was Andre Kempe, founder at Admiral Media and Admiral Studio. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business Apps and you will find us easily. We release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you'll be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.